Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. I just love the once a month getting to tape all these excellent interviews, put it on my syndicated network at TotalTutor.net, Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. And now I'm getting back into the education thing after having an amazing celebrities I've had on the show. This is a celebrity as well. I know she doesn't always want to bring that up because of what her success is after that. But I'm excited to welcome the program best-selling author Pamela Donnelly, author of College Admissions, 4 Keys to College Admissions Success. Pamela, thanks for calling, and how are you?
Everything's great out here in Los Angeles. How about you, Neil?
I'm doing great in Pittsburgh, and anytime I get in front of a camera and also do radio interviews, dual simulcasts, it's a lot of fun. Now, Pamela, I know we don't have a lot of time for the quick story, kind of like my story of professional wrestler to teacher, where who would have thought at this point in time that I would get back in the entertainment game, but you didn't start out in education. You had a very interesting background as a celebrity in the 80s. Tell us a little quick background on that and what got you into education.
Sure. Yeah, communication is communication. I began as a soap opera actress, so I really have always enjoyed performing. I went to New York City right out of high school. I auditioned for and landed sequential contract roles on ABC television for a number of years. I was on a show called The Edge of Night, which was my first show, and I did a couple years then on, it was All My Children, it was One Life to Live, playing various ingenues in distress, and it was a lot of fun. But what I realized was that being on television and having fan mail and earning a great living was really not fully fulfilling for me, and I really did have what I sensed as a calling in my life for education. I really believed that I had a difference I was meant to make as a teacher, and I didn't know what form that would take. But now I'm writing books about education. I'm an education reform activist. I'm running a major company out here in Los Angeles with a staff of Ivy League tutors called Valley Prep Tutoring. I'm doing all kinds of stuff out here, So I'm really taking everything that I've done, kind of like you, and taking that same skill set and redirecting it in a direction that I hope is, making a contribution to people in my community, as you do.
And that's the mission. But when you were a big star in All My Children and soap operas, so it's kind of like you made a decision to look at, I think also going towards an education, you're looking at family life, you're looking at different things that are important to you. Being in entertainment at times, it can be very lonely, and you saw that you could really use your talents and gifts in another way as an educator, and that's fantastic. And now teaching other educators to be successful and education reform. Now, call the book, and again, being a best-selling author, it's amazing. This topic is going to be something I'll be talking to all my parents, my current high school students that I'm tutoring in the SAT, and say, oh my gosh, you got to think about these things. Why? And because this is the most difficult time for parents right now. I've talked to a lot of different experts that for preparing for the college process, and I always am hearing last-minute SATs, we got to get these scores, yet they're not doing everything, Pamela. A lot of times they sign up for the SAT, they're not thinking about the applications, the college visits. There's so much to this, isn't there?
You know what? The timelines are really surprising to most parents. A lot of them wait until end of junior year to start even having a conversation. We do recommend that people get started. Certainly by freshman year, there are critical things you need to be looking at and doing to make sure that you're setting your student up for success. By the time they're taking a PSAT, you should know that your student has maybe particular issues they're facing in critical reading or in math.
Exactly.
You need to begin remediating that early, because if you wait until junior year, I always call it the spring of the junior year train wreck is
it is
what you're facing. All those AP exams and everything, oh my goodness, it's just too much. So yeah, and I'm also a parent. So I've got 6 children. My oldest is out of college, 2 in high school. I know this from the parent side as well as from my 20 years in the classroom after being on all those topics. So I really encourage parents to get started early. My book, 4 Keys to College Admissions Success, absolutely goes through timelines and specific strategies that I really encourage parents to embrace.
I love when you talk about the timelines. It's very interesting. I'm doing an SAT camp with Ethic Training over at the Pittsburgh Indoor Sports Arena, and a lot of the parents, in a lot of ways, these kids, they're sitting there as sophomores or ninth graders in this class because they're going to do athletic training afterwards, and they're not even thinking about this. I remember when I was a kid, I didn't really think about the SAT. I was thinking about sports. So it's really the job of the parent to be that coach. Isn't that true, Pamela? They have to learn by reading your book and learning specific things to be on this timeline, because kids in this age, sophomore, junior year, really don't know how to coach themselves. They really need that help, don't they?
They do, and you know, think of it this way. You know, as parents, this is our privilege. It's the final important sort of rite of passage that they're going to undergo while they're still living in our home. Let's face it, in a few short years, they're launched. They're gone. Our work here is done. And what we do in these important years is absolutely mission critical.
And I sometimes don't see it's mission critical, and that concerns me. And I'm sitting down, oh yeah, I'm like excited about, okay, take your practice test, let's see that improvement. This is very, very important. But then when I ask them questions, and I want to hear your tips for sure, but when I ask them those questions, like, have you looked and see what schools you really want to go to? What score do you need? Because you go through these classes with me, if you don't know what score you need to score on this test to get into that college, you're really not doing the rest of the homework, because a lot of people say, oh, I'll wait to going into the senior year. And that's dreadful, isn't it, Pamela? You're literally...
Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh, you're chasing the train. You know, why chase the train when you can get out in front of, you know, and be the one, you know, doing it and being the engineer? I mean, you get back what you put in. And, you know, I don't think that we need to obsess. You know, Time Magazine has tapped me as their college admissions expert that did some, you know, I did an interview, and they've been running that on their website. And one of the things I talked about there is that there can be too much hysteria around this. So we don't want the pendulum to go much in the other direction, where all of a sudden you've got, you know, the parent frantic and the student stressing out. The helicopter parent syndrome that I'm sure you're aware of.
Oh my! But see, I'm really scared. Go ahead.
That's less likely, though, isn't it? We've got that other end that's more common.
I think nowadays their parents have to be helicopter parents, which is really scary. That a lot of times the guidance counselor's not giving you this advice, the teacher's not giving you any advice, so you're pretty much left alone. And you have to be the helicopter parent in so many ways. That's what concerns me for sure. But let's I know my parents have pen and paper right now. Either they're listening to this as a podcast or watching this on television, to write down some ideas they need to dig their teeth into right now. And the question I'm going to ask, when do you start this process? When do you sit down with your teenager or maybe early teen and start planning this process?
Okay, so by freshman year, we recommend that you are already beginning to have a conversation with your student. You're determining what I call my 3P process. What is your student's passion? What are they proficient at? And what can they make profitable in this world? These 3 Ps are going to lead you to your student's purpose, the 4th P, the magical 4th P. So be thinking about that in the freshman year, trying to determine a good orderly direction, even if it's just left brain versus right brain.
Exactly.
Are they likely to be STEM subject majors in college, science, technology, engineering, math? Or are they more of a liberal arts kind of humanities-driven student?
Yeah.
They're going to be going toward communications, journalism, you know, careers in that direction. By the time you're in sophomore year, they're going to probably have a shot at an early CSAT. It is time to begin not just making sure that the GPA is strong, which is extremely important for all colleges, but to make sure that they, on standardized tests, if they need additional time, which 15% of students do, and many don't even know it, they wait till the last minute. You know, you can get time and a half on an SAT or an ACT, but you have to apply over 6 months early in most cases. You've got to really, got to make sure that you are on top of that, and that requires educational testing. It takes time to get that back.
Yeah.
So get started informing yourself about what your student can have as strategies and tactics 5 to 10th grade year. 11th grade is the big one. We recommend, as long as they've committed their math training to get it far enough to take it. If your student is a right brain student, if they're strong in humanities, probably more of an SAT than an ACT student, take a look at getting them a test by the time they get to January or February of the junior year, because you want time to have them do a second attempt. Most students do these days, as you know, Neil. And you don't want second attempts to overlap AP exams. And AP exams are happening
Exactly.
in May. So that's that train wreck I talked about. You've got to think about your timeline or everything's stalled. And then they've got prom, and they're too stressed out to even buy a fourth bus.
Exactly.
So you've got to really plan this stuff out. And then senior year, you know what, by the time those common apps are going out, and a lot of kids really do take advantage, at least in our, folks out here in LA, a lot of early decision and early action is a great way to go for many students. You've got to have that stuff organized by the time senior year begins.
Yes.
So you're using that summertime. So, and summers are important. Let's talk about internships. Your students should be using those summers really carefully. They should be doing volunteer yourself for free to get the right internship with the right letter of recommendation that you
I like that. I want to take a step back in this, and there's so much information. That's why you definitely have to check out Pamela's book. But Pamela, when you talked about that freshman year, and this is where I'm sure when they call your organization or they ask for that advice or you do talks, that they really don't know how to identify their teenager at that point as a freshman year. They don't know what they're going to want to do. They don't know what's the best skill set. But it's very interesting to see what you talked about when you're talking about, are they towards the English and teaching area or media, or are they more in the science and math? And you'll know that by that point in time, because AP courses are so very important. I want to go back to one thing that I think that the area of families listening right now that have students that are highly excelling that think they don't have to do anything. I want to point questions to them and say how they missed the boat. You're watching Neil Haley's show, and I guess the Total Education Network Total Tutor segment. And when we get back, more of Pamela Donnelly, and she's going to give us some more great tips about college admissions. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and it feels like Total Education with Neil, but we're with also, I'll just say, celebrity Pamela Donnelly, also best-selling author. You have a lot of titles, the soap operas and movies in the 80s, to educator and really helping families. And your book definitely is providing us, but you have such great suggestions, and I wanted to kind of, with only this short period of time, want to take some information and learn for myself that I could share with my listening audience and viewing audience. Now, Pamela, when you were talking about that freshman year and kind of identifying where your kid is, let's go to the high level kids. Let's go to the high excelling, don't have to study much, are really doing well, are going to be in AP courses. Oh, they're fine. They're 4.0 students. They're 3.7 students. I don't have to worry about anything. They just take the SAT. This is the one child I don't have to worry about. That's the one teenager I don't have to worry about. Am I wrong? They should really think about strategies and stuff, right?
Strategies are going to be important on an SAT because this test is unlike tests that your student is seeing in the classroom. You're talking about a test, and again, keep in mind that it's going to change in 2016. So again, it's
right.
moving
Already
target.
Gearing up for that.
We are too, sure are. And so, if a parent assumes that their child is fine, it's sort of I think it's a gamble that is not worth taking. The stakes are simply too high to not at least get a baseline test in place. We provide free baselines for our clients, and baselines are available all over the place. You can go and have your students have them take a full 4-hour proctored, professionally graded essay being evaluated baseline. Find out what
Right.
they're capable of. Don't wait until you throw them, in the actual deep end of the pool and hope that they can.
Because some people aren't good at standardized testing. But what I was talking about, Pamela, that's a great suggestion. What I was talking about is this process that you talk about, the 4 keys to college admission success. I see families that have successful kids that don't hire tutors. They don't go ahead and get somebody to help in that college essay. They just think, hey, they get it, so I don't have to worry about that one. What are they missing out on money-wise? What are they missing out on opportunities to get in the best schools? And looking at that freshman year and say, this is where I, as a parent, needs to really plan everything out throughout this 4-year process.
Well, scholarship money is going to be directly tied to GPA. It's going to be directly tied to academic achievement in lots of areas. So to be able to hit those particular parts of a rubric that a committee is going to be looking at in terms of grant aid, merit aid, all these types of assistance that are going to be available depending on the school you're targeting. The difference between a 3.7 and a 4.0 is enormous.
Oh, wow.
And when you're talking about, because there are so many 3.7s and 4.0s out there,
Right.
when you're talking about weighted versus unweighted, most colleges nowadays, the old days of weighted GPAs, and we've had students that graduate with 4.7 GPAs out here.
Yeah.
Because they take so many APs, they ace the APs, and you would think that it's just a slam dunk to Harvard or whatever.
And it's not.
But in fact, but it is not always the case. The stakes have gotten so high. College admissions today are 18 to 20% more challenging than they were 5 years ago.
Oh, my.
Tuition rates are up. Admission rates are down. The economics are driving this, and it is a real challenging terrain for parents and students to navigate.
Hearing all this makes me nervous, and my kids are a long time from now, but it's great things to bring up for sure in this process. And what recommendations would you make for that high-achieving student in a freshman year? They definitely should enroll as many AP courses as possible, correct, if they're capable of handling it?
You know what? I would not say as many as possible. We talk about the 1, 2, 3, 4 rule, which is the minimum. I would say 1 in freshman year is a great idea, but some schools don't offer it. Keep in mind, here's a trick. A lot of parents don't know that you can offer dual or even triple transcript submissions to colleges. It does not all have to happen in your school of record. For many students out here, for example, UCLA is hard to get into. We've got a group of students who got in last year, and the way we did that is by them using their local public or private school as their school of record, but supplementing that by using an online school that we partner with that offers AP coursework. So in addition to what they were doing, they went the extra mile in summer and also at some points during the school year to do maybe a semester AP macroeconomics course or AP psychology,
Right.
adding on to things that their school didn't offer. That shows a tremendous amount of resolve, and that sort of intentionality is very impressive with college admissions staff.
So that's great suggestions, especially to look at. So it's not so many AP courses, it's just at a certain period of time. And then also when you look at the AP through other types of programs that are out there, what really, the GPA is part of this process, but it's a lot more in that process. So first of all, looking at what your child wants and needs and what their skill sets are. Can you really tell in their 9th grade year, Pamela, where they're going and where they're at this point?
I would recommend, take a look. I did do a training video. It's on my website at PamelaDonnelly.com, and I talk about the 3P process that I mentioned earlier. If you just, literally any parent who can draw a triangle can do this process with their teenager. And what I love about it is, you can have a conversation, even if you just are in the car driving with your student and you're not literally drawing the triangle. But you just talk about these 3 aspects of life. And I think that, honestly, as a mom, by the time all 3 of my children were in 9th grade, it was pretty clear that this one's really good at visual arts, and that one's a great piano player, and this one over here loves psychology and is completely, into helping other people from that standpoint. And animals, by the way. She now actually is out of college and working for a nonprofit helping with animal rescue.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. I could have told you when she was in middle school that this child loves animals. This child is compassionate. This child is really interested in the way the mind works. So it wasn't a surprise to me that she graduated top of her class from her university in psychology. That made perfect sense
Yeah.
to me.
Quite interesting. And so you finding that information, figuring out what your child's able to do, that's setting the framework for the 4 years, to say the least. Like I said, I really gaining a lot of information from Pamela Donnelly today about this college admissions process that I can definitely share to my listening and viewing audience, and also the parents that I work with across the whole world, and this process. And so the way to plan early, start as a freshman year, Pamela, they're not going to be as stressed out as if you're starting to think about these things junior. Any earlier than that? Can you think about that in 8th grade, 7th grade, any of the parts of that? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? I specialize in secondary education, which means my degree from Columbia University goes from 7th through 12th grade. And I think there's a reason that they have us with that expertise, because the truth is 7th and 8th grade is really foundational. I would say for college admissions, if you know your student is going to be aiming for college, by 7th grade, you want them to have begun foreign language if possible.
Yes.
This will allow them to get to AP foreign language by the time they're in their senior year. I would also think about getting Algebra 1 between 7th and 8th grade completed, so that by 9th grade they're at least at the geometry level. This will allow them to get to AP Calculus, AB, and BC.
Exactly, yeah.
So by waiting too long to get started, it all sort of backs up on you if you're not careful.
I see. I like when you said about 7th, 8th grade. That's where I kind of am already in that piece with my oldest, who's in 4th grade, saying, you know, math is so important in this whole process, more than anything, because it's a subject that a lot of people struggle with. And if you aren't on the right track in mathematics and you want to be in the sciences, you're really in trouble, because you're not going to be able to handle the more difficult science courses without a math background. So I think, like, you're staying in that same role, because then when you're applying for engineering schools, they want to see a high SAT score. Am I correct in math? They want to see that they're doing well. You might have to take a subject test as well, because that's the part of the process of admissions, right?
That's absolutely true. In fact, I toured USC with my sophomore just over the Thanksgiving break, and we met with the head of the Viterbi School for Engineering, because she's interested in a civil engineering career possibly.
Right.
So, we did a whole session with them, and what they were saying there is what we hear in other schools all over the country. Absolutely, they want them to have completed both levels of AP Calculus by the time they get there, because that's even foundational. When you come into an engineering program, they don't want to be teaching you calculus. If you haven't demonstrated a high level and a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam in calculus, there's a question of whether you should. I mean, let's face it, who wants somebody to build a bridge that can't do the calculus required to figure out?
Yeah, exactly.
That the thing's not going to fall down with your school buses on it. So it's a very important, commitment to make to ensure that those scores are high. And let me just say for the record, I don't love standardized testing. As an education reform activist, I'm vehemently opposed to Common Core. I am very concerned about the amount of pressure that we place. But right now, this is the terrain that we're in.
Exactly.
So we've got to navigate what's there. I'm not a big hoorah for driving everyone crazy in the way that we do. As a mom, I just feel protective when your parents call and I'm getting advice, and so many people at this point are looking to me as their sort of go-to college admissions expert. And I really feel a responsibility to measure out as I give the advice of how to let's beat test and beat, so let's make sure our kids get in. Yes, but let's also take a deep breath, moms and dads.
Exactly.
These are our babies. These are our babies. Remember when they were in their little cute little toddler outfit?
And it's great. And it's great you said that, Pamela, because again, like you said, the standardized testing, the education reform. I play both sides of the fence, and this as a journalist, I sometimes do lean definitely against Common Core in certain aspects, but testing too much is too much. I hope they don't get rid of standardized testing for college, because I think that separates some of the you need to have that process, and it'll be interesting to see what the new SAT. So Pamela, where's the best place we can find information? You kind of auditioned for the Total Education Network, meaning my education shows. So I'm going to have you on some roundtable discussions. We're going to continue to bring you back. Those are the only type of people we bring back on a regular basis are experts on my education portions of the network, the Total Tutor Show, Total Education Hour, and Total Education News Show. And you have such great information. So where can we find info?
Thank you. Yeah, please visit me at www.PamelaDonnelly.com. That's 2 N's and 2 L's in Donnelly. And I really look forward to connecting with you and your listeners again, Neil.
All right, and viewers. So good talking to you, Pamela, and best of luck.
Oh, thanks. Same to you. Take care.
All right. That was Neil Haley's show. Another amazing show. Go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Total Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google+. But also remember to call the station, especially if you watch the show, and see where you can check out all the different stuff on the Bethel Park YouTube channel and all the different things. Thanks again for listening and watching to the Neil Haley Show. Excited about who my next guest will be next week, or guests. I'm going to get Dave Cable spinning around saying, wow, you're interviewing all these interesting people, but thank you, BPTV, for allowing me to do something that I was not allowed to do at one of my flagship stations in Pittsburgh. And that's interesting, very interesting guests with a variety of topics. So take care. We'll talk next week, Pittsburgh and the world. Good day, everyone.